Welcome back to a new video here in SUALVI. In this video, we are going to animate an Instagram picture. This is not like an actual Instagram picture that I'm going to post or anything. I actually haven't posted in a long time, but this is just to give you an idea of like something that you could do to make your Instagram post a little bit more interesting and to add a little bit more of like an attention grabbing effect, right? Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do, let me just get rid of that. You create a new fusion composition. I would assume that you already know how to create that. If you don't, just right click and then create a new fusion composition and then just double click. You can also rename these Instagram. Let's just put it like that. Okay, we're gonna create a background first of all, and this background is actually 1920 by 1080. What we want to do, well, if you want, you can just leave it like that, but on Instagram, I guess natively the resolution would be 1:1, the aspect ratio. So we want to do it like 1080 by 1080, and then we're gonna use that to create our image, right? So in this case, we're gonna just add motion to this picture, and that's one way that you could do to add a little bit more of like an attention grabbing effect to your pictures. Now we see this image here, and what I want to do is I want to animate the hands here, and I don't have these pre-made, so we're just doing these at the same time. Okay, and if you see these a little bit pixelated, it's because of the playback. It's at half resolution. I do these when I'm recording because that way I can allocate more resources to the actual screen recorder. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is, if you don't have a like Photoshop or something that where you can actually where you can actually edit the image, because that way it's gonna be easier. On Photoshop, you can just directly use the magic mask and then take the background out. But in this case, I'm gonna show you how you can do this inside DaVinci Resolve, just using DaVinci Resolve, so that if you don't have access, you can do it here. On the other method will definitely speed up your process. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna create a mask, polygon mask, which is this one here, and we're gonna go around our subject, and I'm gonna speed this up right now because I don't think you want to just watch this video of me just masking this out, right? Okay, once we have our first mask, we're gonna just repeat that same process, and we're just gonna copy and paste our media here and then connect these, and then we're gonna click to, and the reason for this is that we want to have two different separate elements, I guess you could call. Okay, and then we're gonna create the new mask again, and then we're gonna invert these, and we're gonna do that same process on the other one. Okay, then we're just gonna invert these back again, and we can see both of them. If we click 2, I have to invert this other one too, and now we have our both elements. Now they're not as clean, so if you want to make them, you can add a little bit of a soft edge. Okay, so I spent like 10 minutes doing that. It's a little bit too much. So if you want to use that same background that you already have, you're gonna have to create a copy of this background to look at it, and we're gonna have to like copy both of these masks here and connect these to this background. Okay, here we have, so we have these masks here with the paint mode being added, and then here in the actual picture, we're gonna go to settings, and then we're gonna apply the mask inverted, and there we have that. So now what do we do? How can we fix this? Okay, so the easiest thing to do is we're gonna create a paint node, and then here on this paint node, we're gonna press number 2 so it's on screen, and we can use the clone tool here, and we can increase the size of these two. If we go to the modifier, we're gonna actually see it. If we zoom out, then we can hold Alt and click there to select an area, and then we can just paint over our hand right here, sort of to make it a little bit, sort of fix it, right? And this part also takes a little bit of time because you want to make it although the arms are going to be covering this area, you want to make sure that it sort of like it looks a little bit decent, and for that you can actually add a little bit of softness to your brush here so that you're actually mixing things a little bit better, right? And after doing these, you're able to have that picture. But there's one problem actually when you do there's one problem that if you go one keyframe, it will just disappear because the paint node is set to like only one stroke duration. Now this does take a bit to render, so one thing that I can recommend you to do is create a freeze frame of these. So how will we go about doing that? Okay, so in order to do that, we first have to go get rid of these two. And then we're gonna go to the edit page, and we're gonna bring our fusion composition here. And since our fusion composition right now is just like 10 by 1080, on this one we're gonna go inside fusion, and we're gonna change the background here to 1920 by 1080. And now we have our full background. Now we can go back here. Okay, so now we have these fusion here. We can go to the, make sure you're in that same keyframe that you used. We're gonna go to the color tab, and then we're gonna right click here, and then we can grab still, which is gonna create a picture here. Now this is gonna be sort of like an image, and what we can do with these is we're gonna actually export these as a PNG file. And now we can go back here into our media pool, and we don't need these ones, so we can just deactivate it pressing D. Okay, so here we are in our main fusion composition again. We're just gonna connect these, and that same, and we're gonna import that image that we had. Now we're gonna replace these area here, which is the paint node. You can actually just get rid of these and delete that, and we're gonna import and add that here. And now we have everything where it should be. Okay, now we can add a transform node. We have everything set up so that we can start animating, I guess. If you make these smaller, you will see that this area is not showing anymore. So what we can do is here we can just wrap it or add a mirror, and that will sort of make it fit a little bit better. And now we can do the same thing with the hands. We can add a transform node, which is what we're gonna use to add motion to both of our images right here. Now the way that we're gonna animate these are, first of all, we're gonna make them smaller so we can see where the edge of the screen is, and we can actually just copy the same settings here. Well, that was actually quite accurate. Okay, now we're gonna create the keyframes for these at the size and the position, and that's gonna go for both of them. Then at frame 48, we are going to create the next keyframe. And after that, we're gonna add the values. So I want them to come together at frame 48. So we're gonna bring this one a little bit closer, like that. And then we're gonna increase the size so that the side of our arm is still all the way until the edge of the screen. And then here too, we're gonna bring it closer, and we're gonna make these smaller like that. Well, actually bigger there, and they don't necessarily have to touch. We're gonna go to the first keyframe here, and then we're actually gonna drag these a little bit further out and maybe make them a little bit smaller too. Now we can see both of them going in sort of like that, and it looks kind of cool, right? And then at frame 48, what I want to do is first we're gonna select both of them, and we're gonna go to the spline tool. And then with all of those selected, we're gonna press Ctrl A, and then we're gonna press F. Now we are going to actually select these side, the ending keyframes, and we're gonna hold Ctrl and drag these a few frames. It's at 60. I want it to be at 58 actually. We're gonna bring that here, and holding Shift we can move these, actually slide it like that. So it's gonna have like a little pause here, and I'm gonna tell you why in a second. Now we're gonna press Ctrl A again, and we're gonna set it to be a ping pong. That way the animation is gonna go back again and then start again. So it sort of plays like a loop, and they go back and then it starts again, no matter how long your fusion composition is in your timeline. Okay, now one thing you can do is you can go and add a motion blur to them. I actually lower these always to like around 80, and then quality 4. And once we have our motion blur set up, what we can also do is we can actually add a blur to our background. So we're gonna press Ctrl spacebar to open that selection tool. Actually, I always mention because there's always somebody that doesn't know. And if you add motion blur, you'll see how it gets blurry. And we can also animate these a little bit. So from 0 to 48, it's going to be like that, 19.10, and then we're gonna create the next keyframe at 58, and we're also gonna set these up to be a loop. We're gonna press F first, and then we're gonna ping pong this so they also follow that same pattern. Okay, so now that is pretty much it. You can leave it as it is already. It's already fine, and that's how sort of like basic. It shouldn't take the thing that would take the longest would be the masking part. That's why I recommended that you use Photoshop or some other image manipulation software, so that you can actually change things and add them faster. Now I got this idea, but I think I'm not gonna actually go through the whole process right now following, but I'm just gonna show you the end product. I got an idea of one cool thing that you can do is, if you have like a collage of many pictures, what you can do is actually get rid of this background, and we can go to the edit page and then add plenty of pictures and make it sort of to be like a collage of the pictures moving around. And then when the hands stop, there's gonna be one photo that stays still for the 10 frames, and then the whole thing will go back to changing. That's just one cool idea that I got, and I'm gonna show you the final product of that too. But this is just the basic of how you can animate a picture, just grabbing a few elements and moving them and making a little bit of like subtle action, so that you are able to grab a little bit more attention of your viewers. So if you actually follow through with this tutorial and create something similar, then it will be cool to check it out. So make sure to let us know down in the comments and tag us. So that's pretty much it. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next video here in SUALVI. Bye.